Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I've got a very interesting lineup of Dogman encounters to share with you. Very informative and terrifying all at the same sense. Before we get into these encounters, though, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All of those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that really don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. Now, I've definitely taken enough of your time, guys. Let's get on with these terrifying Dogman encounters. Shall we? Today's first encounter. Multiple witnesses, a mystery creature, no consensus in what it might be. Precious little information is available on the sighting of an unidentified creature that frightened a guard dog patrolling part of the Shager Air Force Base in Queensland, Australia. I can't even find a date on the story, though have found references going back as far as 2005. From Royal Australian Air Force News. Leading aircraftmen Matthew Cash, Cy Hollanday, and Chris Hay had been sent out to intercept a Movland Special Force team that had launched a raid on the base and was withdrawing along a creek line near their position. The three ADGs, accompanied by a dog and its handler, moved from the creek line to the other side of the quarry, planning to intercept the enemy group as they entered the clearing. Leading aircraftman Cash explained what happened next. We came across the quarry and pulled up, looked around, and this creature was sniffing on the ground, following exactly where we had come through. It pulled up on a mound about 50 meters away and just sat there. We had our night weapon sight and our night vision on it, watching it, and the creature was just sitting there, sniffing and watching us. He said the creature stood about waist high on all fours, had a small head, was spotted, and moved like a cat. The airmen go on to speculate on the creature being a wild boar or a dingo, but of the four men, no consensus could be made. Even the dog could not agree. Even the trained tracking and attack dog seemed put off by the sight of the unusual creature. It quietly crept to the back of the group and stayed out of sight. Beyond the testimony, the only evidence was a footprint, which could be explained by an animal stepping on the hind foot onto the front paw print. But still, this was no dog print. The closest thing that could be found was a bear or a cougar. Neither bears nor cougars are native to Australia. 2 nights later, the next time the Air Force dog was on patrol, the creature appeared again at about 5 in the morning and lingered within 10 meters of the observation post. Again, the ADGs could not identify it. Today's second encounter. This happened about 10 years ago when I lived in Limestone, a small town in Maine. For reference, I lived in a small apartment complex completely surrounded by forest. It was very quiet. Lots of wildlife roamed the fields and forests surrounding the complex. I was 8 years old, lying on the top bunk of my bed looking out the window. There was a spider that would build her web right outside of my window, so I would always watch her build her web at night before I went to sleep. My window overlooked the parking lot that was right next to the field bordering the thick forest. One night I was watching the spider build its web, as I always do, when I see this very tall ape-like thing with a long tail that was tapered at the end. Kind of how you'd imagine a T-Rex tail, except hairy, if that's a good comparison, walking across the parking lot. I kept watching it as it wandered into the field just before the forest. It then placed itself between 2 trees about arm's length from each other and began climbing up by grabbing 2 opposite trees with its respective hands and feet, and slowly shimming up the tree. As it made its way to the tops of the tree, it sort of blended in with them and stopped moving. I couldn't see anymore. To this day, I am completely stumped as to what it was that I saw out of my apartment window. Today's third encounter. I don't know how to tell this, but here goes. Back in January, I was walking in the park across from my school at night. I don't normally do this, however, it's much more peaceful at night and the deer come out around then. At around midnight, I began to hear something from somewhere in the park. The particular call this thing began to make sounded as like a monkey and an owl. What I mean by this is that the beast would make two calls, like an owl and then two like a monkey, and then continued like this. Needless to say, I got out of there. I didn't think much of this until one day on the local news there was a story about an attack on a few llamas close to where this park is. This may not seem like much, however, these were 500-pound llamas and were used specifically for home protection. I've done some research into this, and from what I can tell, this creature is possibly a Bigfoot type or a Dogman type. From what the news story said, there are distinct holes in the llama's neck that make me lean towards the Dogman type. However, I am unsure of what to do now. Update, I'd like to recap this for you. In January of 2019, I heard a disturbing sounding call in a section of park across from my school. In February, there was an attack on a herd of llama on a farm beside the Louisville Zoo. An investigation as to what caused the attack is still ongoing. A week later, 2 donkeys were killed about 5 miles away. Then some sheep were found either dead or missing in a farm outside of the city. On to the new stuff. It could be a possibility that a group of rabid dogs could have killed the llama. However, upon further investigation, I have found this has been ruled out due to the territorial nature of the llama as well as the mentioned bite marks around the ears and the flanks. This can also be ruled out as dogs attack primarily around the neck, as it does the most damage and can kill an opponent easily and quickly. Upon examination of similar reports around the same time, I have come to a conclusion of 2 things. The first is that whatever this creature is, it more than likely originated around Brandenburg. For the non-Kentuckians, this is about an hour outside of the city, as there have been sightings of suspicious creatures around that area. The second is that this creature is more than likely a dogman due to the speed and stealthiness the creature appears to be hunting at. With that being said, I am disturbed by one thing. Either this creature is going to continue killing and make its way toward Shepherdsville, or it's going to try to circle back towards West Point. I don't believe it will head towards Mount Washington, as that's further from the familiar territory. I will continue to keep you all updated. Today's 4th encounter. I'd like to recount something that I saw about 8 years ago while driving out in country lanes with friends. We were in a mate's car just driving around country lane here in the UK. A country lane is basically winding roads out in the countryside. They tend to be, well, out of the way of everything. Not many people about. A lot of forestry. Anyway, we come to a road that is covered overhead, for the most part, by trees. As I look forward, I see what looks exactly like a monkey with a weirdly long tail hanging, then jumping directly into the road in front of us. It kind of looked back at us and scampered to the left. As I saw it, I shouted, "Holy shit, what is that?" 4 out of 5 of us saw this, with me seeing it before anyone else did. All this happened in broad daylight. To this day, I still wonder what it was. Now, it is entirely possible that it was some kind of monkey. How the hell it was out in the wild like that, I don't know. We don't have anything like that whatsoever in the wild in the UK. We parked up just ahead from where we saw it and tried to work out what it was. A monkey was the closest approximation to what we could come up with. It was so strange. Anyway, that's that. I told you I had some good encounters to share with you today. Now, I really enjoyed the Shurjur creature. I always love it when there is some military or police activity, not trying to cover up, but trying to identify it. It always makes the story a little more interesting because they're the ones that are supposed to be hiding it from us. I find it really interesting because I was, by a subscriber, submitted a Dogman encounter, and his mom lived on an old Air Force base out there in Queensland, and this is pretty close to that area. So I'm wondering if this was possibly the same creature, just on all fours. Now obviously they're trying to look at these paw prints and they're thinking bear or cougar. They are very big paw prints, larger than a dog. So I'm thinking 100% Dogman, and possibly the same creature or a pack of creatures. There was 2 in the subscriber submission. So I'm thinking that these are kind of related. Very interesting though. The guard dog did not want any part of it and hid behind the other 3 Air Forcemen. So very, very cool on that one. Let's move on to the second encounter. Now, Maine is a very forested area. I love it in Maine. It's a great state, quiet, but very eerie there. And I 100% think this was a Dogman, just how they identified it. An ape-like creature with a long tapered tail, bipedally walking across the parking lot, and then it shimmies its way up a tree. No doubt about it. I mean, definitely a Dogman, and definitely something an 8-year-old does not want to see. That's just going to cause nightmares. Very interesting encounter. I want to know kind of what it was doing in the trees. Maybe if it was looking for food or just hiding. Who knows? The Kentucky Louisville encounters. Now, I did do a little bit of research, and this is about 3 hours west of the Knoxville attack. So unless this creature traveled very quickly and stealthily, I don't think it was that. But it just goes to show that Kentucky is full of creatures lurking about. And the llama murder or deaths, deaths, is, yes, the same llama death covered up by the news agencies, and obviously this person can exactly see through the lines as well. So let's all be careful if we go to Kentucky. It's definitely something's lurking out there. And let's move on to the last encounter. Now, I am kind of baffled on this one. Because it could have been very easily a juvenile Dogman, or possibly a monkey that escaped from the zoo. I'm doubting the zoo escapee, so I'm thinking possibly a juvenile Dogman. Very interesting that it just kind of just jumped out of the trees, landed in the road, and took off. Who knows? We probably will never know. But like this person said, how the heck did a monkey even get out in these area of the UK? And they definitely don't have something like that lurking in the wilds of the UK. So that leads me to guess juvenile Dogman. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say on that, and hopefully you guys can shed some light on the subject as well. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed these encounters. I'm still working on something that I stumbled across this weekend, and I'm sure you guys are going to find it just as fascinating as I do. I'm a little nervous about sharing it publicly, but you know what? I think it's kind of my responsibility, or I don't know, my duty to share it. So when that is done, hopefully in the next coming few days, I will have that out. It has a lot to do with Skinwalker Ranch. And a lot of bad stuff happens out there. Paranormal, poltergeist, ghosts, orbs, UFOs, cryptids, and just a lot of people that shouldn't be there that are there, and people that you wouldn't expect to be there are there. So there's a couple of little hints, but yeah, that's what I'm working on next. So with that, guys, I am going to head off and help my daughter with her homework and then watch a movie before bed. I hope you guys enjoyed these encounters, and with that, farewell.